It's AZCHATS 86. It's been a while. Make some popcorn. Put the kettle on. I'm going to talk for about 25 minutes about how Blizzard are pissing me off. Bye! See you after the intro. Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Now this isn't a video that was planned, not that any video is technically planned, because most of the stuff I'm doing now obviously is news, and news just happens and then you make a video. But what I'm trying to say is, this was never on the cards. You know, I'm kind of expecting stuff to happen as regards to Activision, Fallout 76, EA doing something, you know, some company screwing up somewhere. Everyone's on high alert. But when it comes to Blizzard, there's something which has been nagging at me pretty much since Blizzcon now, and in recent times it's just really starting to compound. So I want to go through what I'm kind of feeling, and you know, obviously the title kind of stresses it in minor detail, but the detail as to why I'm feeling this way. And I just want to go back to November of 2017, because I wasn't playing the World of Warcraft. I was unsubscribed, and I had been unsubscribed for over a year at that time, and I never had any intention of returning to WoW. And then, when I was taking some time off from streaming to eat some tea, I heard of the Classic announcement. And I legitimately never thought that Blizzard would do this. I never thought they'd bring vanilla/classic WoW back to the World of Warcraft, particularly after J. Allen Brack's comments where he said, you think you do, but you don't, which some people say, no, you're taking it out of context. Now, there is some argument to say that, but what I think at the best case scenario for Jay, what I think he was trying to say is, you think you want to go back to the old ways of how WoW was, but you don't really. The modern way is better. And I totally disagree with that. So whether or not people actually wanted classic WoW back or vanilla WoW back, or whether or not they actually wanted a return to a more in-depth version of the World of Warcraft, where you had to have much more class management, where the world was much more threatening, where, you know, elites and stuff were not something that you could tackle solo, and you did need help, and there was much more guild-orientated and community-orientated activity. Whether or not that is truly what people meant, the sentiment was still there that we want to go back to classic. That was the very, you know, kind of like worst-case scenario or whatever, the sentiment. And it's one that I fully agree with. And so when it was announced, I was legit happy, and having not posted on the HeelvsBabyface website for months, 6 months or so, I put out a video, and didn't expect anyone to listen to it. Expected people who did listen to it to just tell me to piss off. Oh, you don't play this game anymore. But they didn't. People were just wonderful. They were so wonderful, and they were just like, oh God, you know, I'm really happy that you posted this video. I'm really glad that you wanted to discuss this. We miss you. Please come back. And it was like, it was one of the most kind of like almost heartbreaking times for me, because I was just seeing this complete outpouring of love from a community, my community, that I had essentially abandoned. Because when I left WoW, I did it too quickly. I didn't give people time to adjust, and it was very unfair on my own. I don't want to say fan base. I hate that word, kind of like fan base, but you know, my own little HeelvsBabyface community. And so I had a few things that I said, hey, do you want me to give you my thoughts on BFA and stuff? Because the first video I did, obviously, was about the classic announcement. And I think I said in that video, the reason why I'm doing this video and not the reaction to Battle for Azeroth is, you know, this is what interests me more. You know, the reaction to Battle for Azeroth, I was like, yeah, you know, it doesn't really. But then people were like, yeah, please. And it pulled me back into the World of Warcraft. I was so excited for Classic that I resubscribed to Legion. And as I've said, I think Legion was a very mixed bag. There was stuff that I did like in the little storylines, and I did like the instant stuff. But the outside world I thought was just dire. It's just awful. I think the outside world in WoW was just terrible. And so, even though I resubscribed, it was kind of like, and after a few months, you know, my interest in Legion was waning and waning and waning. And then we just got into the BFA beta and the alpha, which I got invited to. So it just enabled me to get kind of like back into the swing of things and discuss things. But move on now to November 2018, and we had Blizzcon. And we had the farce of Blizzcon, because it was, looking back, rather farcical. I mean, I said I don't think it was too bad at Blizzcon. I mean that in terms of, you know, nothing, apart from the Diablo Immortal business, everything else was kind of like, it's just there. You know, nobody else apart from the Diablo Immortal came on stage and imploded. You know, that was the only thing that really imploded. You know, when Blizzard did their what's next in WoW, everyone's just like, you know. What's next in Overwatch? What's next in Heroes of the Storm? Actually, we're kind of going to lie here, because we're going to take everything away soon. But, you know, everything else was like, you know. And the Warcraft 3 Reforged was like, oh, yeah, that's actually something I was interested in, because that is actually one of the best bits of World of Warcraft lore there's ever been. The Frozen Throne and Arthas and all that kind of stuff. It's wonderful stuff to see. So to see that revamped and brought back on, even me who doesn't like RTSs, I was up for it. But it was the whole attitude of Blizzard at that BlizzCon which just started to turn things. The backlash to the announcement of Diablo Immortal, and then Alan Adams' absolute resolution, you know, just how resolute he was in the press conference, and how quick he was to slap down the people. You know, you've got to understand, the people who go to BlizzCon are the hardcorest of hardcore fans. You know, these are almost the people where Blizzard could do no wrong at all. And they are, and I say this in the nicest of ways, because, you know, if I went to an event that I felt the same way, I'd be behaving in the exact same way. But they are literally sat in a seat, ready for a Pavlovian response, ready to cheer when something comes on. You know, that is the default attitude. It's not an audience that's like, yes, we're going to be very critical about this situation. It's not YouTube. You know, it's not where I can, like, step back and go, right, let's have a look at this from this angle and from that angle. It's none of that business. People are sat there and they're ready to cheer. They're ready to get excited, and they're ready to see something which is going to get their juices flowing. And so to get the reaction that you got from Diablo Immortal was crazy. Crazy. Your hardcore of hardcore fans booed. And why did they boo? Well, it was obvious, because Blizzard were going down a pathway which was completely different to what their hardcore audience was, which is PC-based people who pay a lot of money on rigs, monitors, and all this kind of jazz. And Blizzard was saying, hey, no, we're off to China, and we're going to go into the mobile phone marketplace. This was not something that they wanted to hear, and Alan Adam was determined. No, this is the way. And we're pulling the best developers off other teams. And they're working on mobile games. And our developers anyway have been moving away from PC onto mobile. You know, it was like a self-destruction was happening. And there just seemed to be this complete lack of awareness by the people at Blizzard. As if they were literally going to finish this event and scratch their heads and go, why? Why were people so adverse to what we did? I mean, I don't understand why they would. I mean, we have just betrayed our core values, told essentially the audience in front of us that we don't care about them, that we're turning our attentions to a completely different demographic and going away from the platform which we've been, you know, excelled at for numerous, you know, for a couple of decades now, in order to make a quick buck off mobile gaming. Why didn't they take to that? Scratch my head. And then you started to get the backlash from the community. The Diablo Immortal video getting absolutely hammered with dislikes. And then, of course, Blizzard started to delete comments left, right, and centre. Delete comments. Read that first paragraph. I'll get to it in a minute. Delete comments, delete comments, delete comments. And then they started to, suddenly dislikes were vanishing from the video. One of the most disliked videos on YouTube. Suddenly they were vanishing. And the ratio, even though it's still tiny, was just going up by an absolute fraction. And it was just doing what we call the Streisand effect. In attempting to cover stuff up, they were just putting more of a spotlight onto it. And it was proving to be a cluster. And every time that Blizzard communicate, they say this. Blizzard Entertainment is always listening to players in order to improve our games, apps, websites, and more. And it just proved that this front line, this first line, was bullshit. Was a lie. Was a platitude. That's all it was. They didn't really listen. They were trying to stifle people's comments. And there were legitimate concerns and legitimate comments that were being muted away. And then somebody at Blizzard, somebody had the gumption to say, stop it, stop it, stop it. Get these comments unmuted. This is stupid. You're making things worse. They probably were quite aware. You're just shining more of a spotlight by doing this. And then the comments which were muted started to reappear gradually. And I don't think since, and some people have got two videos confused because there were two different videos of the same thing. But I don't think since that time the dislikes were touched. It was just kind of like left. But then over the next few weeks, we just got survey after survey after survey. And they all start with Blizzard Entertainment is always listening to players in order to improve our games, apps, websites, and more. And it comes across as so disingenuous because you're not. And as a World of Warcraft person, as a World of Warcraft player for so many years, that's had so much love for the game, that's now just so beyond disillusioned with this company. Never mind the game, with the actual company. You know that they're talking out their arse. Because when they do their Q&As, they barely touch upon any of the issues. Battle for Azeroth has got crippling issues, and I'm not just talking about with the way that gear's distributed, but just fundamental crippling issues. The outside world being god-awful. You know, you have to do something special in an MMORPG when treasure chests are god-awful. That is spectacular. When one of the most interesting things in a video game, a chest, a treasure chest, is suddenly turned into a piece of garbage. Where island expeditions are just identical. No matter which island you're on, it's the same thing. There's nothing that makes them interesting. Where warfronts are just an absolute free gear. The only thing that really is challenging in the game is raiding and Mythic Plus, and this has been said multiple times. But the actual fundamentals of the game are just so beyond broken right now. And do they get addressed? No. No. So Blizzard are not listening to players because from 8.0 to 8.1, they just doubled down. They gave another Warfront, which is probably worse than the first one, certainly is in my opinion, and more world quests, and repeating more stuff from the last expansion, and bearing in mind, of course, BFA repeats so much from Legion, it doesn't feel as if you're doing anything different. And then we have yesterday. Yesterday, when they, in the space of a 6-week period, put another cash shop mount on the store. And so many people, including myself, said, why isn't this just in relation to the Lunar Festival or a special event? Give players something to actually get. You know, make it special in that regard. Now, my idea was to make it a free item that you get if you log in during the Lunar Festival. And my theory, my reasoning behind that was, if you log in, you are subscribed to the game. So you're getting a subscription. So players who are no longer subscribed could say, well, you know, it cost me £10, $15 to subscribe to WoW. This would be on the cash shop, which it is, for £19 in the UK, $25 in the US, or somewhere along those kind of lines. So it's actually cheaper if I subscribe. You know, I'm getting a bit of a deal. And of course, if you subscribe, whether or not you buy the with your credit card or with gold, it's irrelevant. Because even if you purchase it with gold, somebody has bought that token for you. Blizzard has got money for a subscription. In actual fact, more than a regular subscription. And that means your players have returned to the game. You have managed to get some players back into the game. And you now have a month to try and convince them to stay. And I think it's more important to try and get more people back to the game. And, you know, we've done some maths recently about what the subscription numbers look like right now, and they're piss poor compared to what they should be and what they used to be. They are absolutely diabolical. So instead of trying to make a quick buck from the cash shop, get some people back into the game and give yourself 30 days to convince them to resubscribe, to keep hold of them. But that's too much hard work, of course. But what really got me, what has really, really kind of like got me now, is I get always hit with this tag of oh, he's just a WoW hater, he's just a toxic WoW hater. Yeah, because I'm just a toxic WoW hater because I tell the truth. And you can't handle the truth. Lots of people just can't handle the truth. You know? They think a fan is a sycophant. And there's a big difference between a fan and a sycophant. A sycophant is somebody that just sucks up all the time. You know, there's YouTube channels out there that do that. Whereas a fan is not afraid to say when things are wrong. Is not afraid to question. So, you know, I don't get bothered by that sort of thing whatsoever. I'll be happy to have that logo. I'll be happy to play the bad guy for those people. I'll be happy for them to transfer their disappointment with Blizzard onto me because they need deflection. Because, you know, they're spineless. But what really got me is Mr. GM put a constructive comment on this video. A constructive comment. And he's been muted. His comment has been muted. And I read it out verbatim in yesterday's video when I talked about the flying mount. And now I've got to read it out. I could go back to the video, but no. Now I've got to just kind of give you the edited highlights. And his comment was something along the lines of, the mount looks great, and the art department have done a wonderful job creating it, but wouldn't it have been better if this mount was actually part of the Lunar Festival, and we could actually get it by that means? It was something paraphrasing along those lines. A very good, constructive comment. Blizzard Entertainment is always listening to players in order to improve games, apps, websites, and more. And then they mute him. A constructive comment. There wasn't any passive aggressiveness in that comment. There wasn't any sarcasm. That was a legitimate comment that had over 1,000 likes on it. Suppressed by Blizzard. They can't handle criticism. They can't handle feedback. Why? Because they only want to do things their way. They're not interested in what the community has to say. They will give the platitudes and they will appeal to people who are, I'm sorry to say this, stupid enough to believe this. But this is just platitudes. Blizzard Entertainment is always listening to players in order to improve. They don't know. They're not. They have their way of doing things, and they don't care if you're not on board with that. And so, to just get on to the main brunt, and this is why I'm getting so turned off from playing Classic. I have no problem with Classic. I was so excited for it. When I played the demo at BlizzCon, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved how tough it felt. I love how I had to manage my character, how mana was a legitimate resource, how it could get me in massive trouble if I ran out of it, how mobs actually hurt me when they hit me, how pulling more than one could potentially lead to trouble. Certainly 2 is like, ooh, and 3's like, I'm running. I'm getting out of dodge now. And it was such a great feeling. Now, you know, I'm not going to go into the sharding aspect or anything like that. I'm just telling you about how I felt when I played Classic. But when you have a company that is just lying to you, disingenuous, turns its back on you like it does at Blizzcon, has done nothing in the ensuing months to change your mind, in actual fact, again, with the second unique mount going on the cash shop in the space of 6 weeks, and this becoming, what, the 4th, 5th, 6th event that they've done in this expansion so far to try and extort more money out of you, I just don't have any faith that they're not going to completely screw Classic up. I have no faith that they're not going to keep sharding in it. I have no faith that they, with the release of all the customer service staff, that they aren't going to put the WoW token in it. Something like that. I've got no faith in this company that they're going to give us a legit experience and a good experience. I don't. And I don't know if this is a sentiment it's being felt by other people or if it's just me personally. But I've just seen so much of an attitude change in Blizzard over the course of the last 3 months. An attitude which has almost at every turn said how little they truly care about their community. At BlizzCon, they made that perfectly clear. With Battle for Azeroth, they haven't addressed any of the issues, and they've just constantly gone for monetization, mounts, 6 months worth of game time, let's try and lock you in. You know, all the people are just going, oh, he's getting all, oh yeah, locked in for 6 months, how are you enjoying that? Yeah? Okay, good. Things like this, I just don't have faith in them. I really don't. So I'll be your boogeyman. I'll be your boogeyman. I'll be your villain. I'll be the person that you can deflect your anger from Blizzard to me because you're too spineless to have it yourself, if you are one of those people. But coming up to summertime, there are options. There are a lot of options in the world of MMORPG away from Classic. There's the brand new Elder Scrolls Online expansion coming out in June. And then sometime in summer, we don't know the exact release date yet. Probably going to be announced over the next FanFest in Paris at the beginning of February. Shadowbringers for Final Fantasy XIV, their next expansion, big expansion. And that's going to come out as well. So there are options for MMORPG players. And Classic is starting... and it's not Classic's fault, but Classic is starting to get less and less interesting for me because of Blizzard. So there we go. I know this is a long one, folks, ladies, but I just really wanted to get that out there and to explain why I'm feeling in such a way. And I will be very intrigued to see how you're feeling personally. Does it differ from me? Do you have similar issues? Do you have different issues? But I would be very interested to hear what you got to say about this subject, and I will be delving into the comment section. So if you want to engage me in conversation, the best way to do it, just talk to me like a human being. I'll talk to you like a human being. So hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming links. They're in the description box down below, and I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.